everyone. Welcome back on VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the Regional Director of LATOKEN based in Singapore. I host VCTV Monday till Friday, 8 p.m. Singapore. And the whole idea behind VCTV is to give a platform to founders and entrepreneurs to connect with investors. So today we have a budding entrepreneur from Africa who is going to be presenting his startup and presenting his product to all the speakers today and the audience. So it's a great format today, and I'm very excited to see his pitching. And today's topic is also very interesting, is because of the pandemic, when the world suddenly went to a lockdown and there was physical distancing and we couldn't meet each other in person. Obviously, we have to buy stuff, purchase stuff. So everything went digital, including payments. So today's topic is about investments in e-commerce, which is like, buying, selling online, and mobile payments. Obviously, you have to pay for the stuff you buy. So that industry itself went through the roof in 2020, as we all know. So let's talk about the trends that made some huge noise in 2020, investments into the startups that went in 2020, and some exciting insights besides that. Today, I'm being joined by my colleague, my co-moderator, Nathaniel Amida. Hi, Nathaniel. Welcome to VCTV.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. And I'm excited to be here and to meet all these great guys. I believe that there's a lot to share, a lot to learn. And I look forward to learning and sharing with you guys. So thanks, Sonny.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah. Perfect. So let me start with introductions of our speakers today. First 30 to 35 minutes, we're going to gather all the insights that we have from our investors. Then we go over to the pitching. So that's the format for the day. I'm going to start with Mo, who's joined my session after a while. Hi, Mo. Welcome to VCTV. It's been a while. How are you today? A little bit of introduction and background about you.
Very good. Can you hear me now? Is everything fine?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so a very, very quick background story on myself. My name is Wuluku Sano. I'm the founder and managing partner of Mansa Capital. We're a micro VC fund and an investment advisory firm that helps connect African startups to investors globally.
Wow, so African startups to invest globally. Fantastic. And welcome back.
Yeah.
Are you still in Hong Kong?
Thank you.
Right.
No, so I'm currently on holidays in Africa right now, but I'll be back in Hong Kong next week.
Perfect. Good to know. Thank you. Next I have Harsh. Hi, Harsh. How are you today? Yes. Welcome back.
Hey, Sonny, doing great. Glad to be back here.
Perfect. A little bit of background introduction for the new speakers that we have on the panel today, please.
Got it. Sure. So my name is Harsh Shetia. I'm a venture partner with our ventures. We've done around 51 investments till date. We are completely sector agnostic. And me particularly have a deep experience in fintech as well and e-commerce as well. We've done a lot of investments over there. And I used to work with one of the leading unicorns in India called Paytm. So hopefully I'll be able to add some value to this session today.
Absolutely. Lots of insights coming from you, Harsh. I know that. And yesterday was an interesting panel as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, Sergey. Sergey, hi, welcome back. How are you today?
Hi, happy to be here again. I'm fine. So my name is Sergey. I'm a managing partner of Forces Capital Partners, a boutique venture capital and venture consulting company. I also advise several family offices in Southeast Asia and provide additional consultancy for the startups. We're mostly interested in digital startups that in e-commerce, fintech, health tech, education technologies, and all that across the world, with a special focus on Southeast Asia and Europe.
Okay, so Southeast Asia and Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good to know that. Next, I'd like to introduce my speaker, who's going to be introducing his, product soon. But just an introduction now, Tawanda, for the speakers and the audience. Thank you. Over to you. Tawanda, you can unmute yourself and just intro and a background before we go for the presentation. You are on mute. Yes.
Sorry. My name is Tawanda Shtandu. I'm the CEO for Nemari Technologies. We are a young group of people who are excited to venture into smart transportation. We love big data, and we are looking forward to changing the way we transport here in our region. I'm locally based in Zimbabwe, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, and welcome back. Welcome, not welcome back. Welcome on VCTV. This is your first time on VCTV, and we all welcome you here. Last but not least, Gary, welcome back on VCTV. You are on mute.
I thought you forgot me here. It's great to be here again.
Welcome back.
Oh, it's great. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I built 17 companies, 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, Israeli company brought to the US, Silicon Valley, sold for $1.35 billion 20 months ago. I'm the co-founder of Viva.ai, a $1 billion AI HR tech startup that I started 5 years ago. I love artificial intelligence. I've written over 110 articles and now doing 3 to 5 a week on AI and quantum computing. I started the first accelerator in Russia, the #1 private corporate accelerator in the world today. I started that, I guess, 8 or 9 years ago. I forget, actually. It's been a long time.
Right.
Anyhow, we curate companies from Africa, from Asia. We are a very impact-oriented company. One of the members of the, if you know the NAACP in the US, one of the board members of the NAACP is on my board, has been on my board for some time. We do a lot of impact investing, working with the Black urban community in the States, with some of my Black actor friends, and also women entrepreneurs. I actually, out of my pocket, paid for half of the females that would come into my accelerator program to support them through the process, who have become some of the most incredible startups on the planet. So we love it, and it's great to be here today.
Excellent, and welcome back, Gary. I'll never forget you. I know you are on all our shows. It's just that I go last with you. And thank you so much to be on VCTV and support VCTV every day. Great. So we are done with the introductions of the speakers of the panel today. As I said, the discussion is going to be in 2 parts, with speakers sharing the insights, and we go for the pitching. So a little bit of perspective before we start the discussions. COVID-19 crisis is having a significant and widespread effect on global payment across the sectors. The most striking and potentially lasting impact is an accelerating pace of change in industry. COVID-19 will likely lead to a further decline in cash usage for not only in 2020, we saw the decline, but beyond 2020. Let's start with some trends, insights from our speakers. I'd like to start with Sergey. Sergey, opening remarks from you, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, as you correctly said, you know, the cash payments are in decline, and since, you know, there is additional risk of, you know, touching things, so the cashless payments are in more demand, and especially during the lockdowns, when people avoid going directly to the stores, they prefer to pay online. That led to what we've seen. A lot of banks were revamping their apps because, especially, for example, in Southeast Asia and Europe, the banking applications are very cumbersome and very, you know, complicated. So that led those who spend their time on more time on UX, UI, and everything, they were in a, you know, in advantage, because just using these applications before was not very convenient. Another thing that we saw, you know, the quicker adoption of you know, okay, paying by card is one thing, but for example, contactless payments by card or paying by your phone was not very popular in Southeast Asia. It's more popular now. But I think what we should pay attention to in this case is how exactly e-commerce drives mobile payments. Yes, we've seen a growth in e-commerce, but as some malls are, opening and everything, so we see whether e-commerce are declining or not, but mobile payments remain stable. So which means that while we thought that they're very dependent on e-commerce, of course, people prefer to pay on stores without cash, which is important. But we need to keep in mind that all mobile payments startups, and there were, a lot of emerging startups in this space. So a lot of mobile payment startups need to pay attention to how exactly they're gonna get customers, because a lot of mobile payment startups were launched by under corporate VCs, so it's under corporate umbrellas. It's just almost every telecom provider wanted to have their own mobile payments and all that, providing points. So if you launch another mobile payments application and another mobile payments project, you need to pay attention to your channels. How are you gonna distribute that? How are you gonna get the clients?
Yeah, totally agree, Sergey. Just have this is a very crowded sort of space already. So many payment providers in the space. So yeah, you have to be unique in a way to acquire those new clients, to sustain in this competitive field. Thank you so much for that opening remarks. Next, I am Harsh.
Hey, so definitely, as pointed out by Sergey, right, payment space can really get very diverse in terms of what can you do over there, right? Most of the banks are kind of operating with very legacy systems, and that is why we need a very unique kind of innovation in this space, and it is ripe with opportunities as well. So even though we have lots of payment service providers already, we already have PayPal. Still, we recently had Stripe turning into a unicorn this year. You have companies like TransferWise and other companies who are doing really brilliantly well. So there are lots of opportunities in terms of making the payment process simpler, especially in terms of there are several specific sectors which I see a lot of opportunities in, particularly the cross-border payment facilitation, as well as trying to make it more simpler. Contactless is one of the things, but that's not really the biggest one. The other opportunities would be how to kind of make it digitally, how to make the digital transfer much more smoother, especially since the existing banks, they charge a huge transfer fee, sometimes going up to 3% and even 4%. So that is where that leaves a huge margin for payment companies to come and innovate and kind of bring these legacy banks out of their lethargy. As simple as that. And e-commerce definitely has grown a lot over the last year, but e-commerce is divided into multiple segments. One is obviously the marketplace model, which we see in Amazon. Then we see the private e-commerce that we see in Shopify, where each of the sellers have their respective individual stores. And the recent trend which has been picking up for social e-commerce, which in the form of in China there is Pinduoduo, in India you have Meesho and other social sellers. So e-commerce is just not plain vanilla e-commerce. There are three major segments in which we can divide e-commerce into, and it's very interesting to see how the other sectors, especially social e-commerce, how quickly that has been booming. So I definitely see e-commerce heading towards that direction and lots of growth happening over there.
Yeah, and yesterday you mentioned our Flipkart as well, remember?
Exactly.
Talking about payments, before I go to Gary, ride-hailing services is a startup owned by Tawanda. He's going to share. I just have to share that Grab and Uber, they've also moved into payments. We have GrabPay over here in Singapore that I use. Thank you so much. Gary, over to you with the opening remarks, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's this COVID crisis has created an incredible opportunity. I mean, look at online sales around the world have dramatically increased, and I I don't know about you, but now if I do use cash, many times I say keep the change because I think it's like Russian roulette when I get the change, especially if it's less than 50 cents. It's okay, here's a tip. So our world has dramatically shifted. Although, when I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies in the world out of Silicon Valley back in the late 90s. So I've been in this stuff a long time. We built some of the major websites or were involved in the construction of places like Walmart.com. So I've been around this environment for some time, but look at where we are today. the changes that are taking place, things like voice command, omni-channel marketing, mobile commerce. Think about it, 73% by the end of 2021, 73% of the commerce transactions, e-commerce, will be done by mobile phones. That's incredible. And at the same time, companies like Amazon have really focused on sustainability. The goal of Amazon by, I think, 2040 is to have zero carbon emissions. So we're moved into an entirely new environment. But at the same time, areas like hyper personalization. How can I really feel and get closer to those kind of products? How do they understand what kind of things that I want at any one point in time? So AR and VR, so we can go in and inspect the product, do a 360-degree view, walk through, cars, I mean, you name it. But AR and VR is going to be incredibly hot, and it's estimated that 7.3 billion will be spent on AI for AR and VR in this year, and that about 120,000 stores by 2022 will be using technologies to be able to enhance the customer experience. So it's incredible. And the other thing is visual commerce. If you look at today, Bose, the speakers, you can go in and inspect, but you can go right from the inspection down to purchasing. So cutting the path shorter, so it makes it easier, and then we increase the probability of a purchase, right? So shortcuts like that. So it's an incredible time, and the companies that really embrace the data around us, imagine the capabilities today. I don't know about you, but I go out and look. I was looking for some new rims for my 4x4, and when I went out, literally, I got presented on Facebook those rims, and they were discounted. I bought them. I was like,
Wow.
I was thinking about it, but they caught me at the right time. So being able to have the right product at the right place at the right time, which is the adage of a retail. So it's an incredibly interesting time. I know a few years ago, we developed some technologies that are in use today, taking weather as a factor tied into merchandise planning system. Why? Because your weather has a dramatic impact on the types of products you purchase. So imagine on an online experience, being able in a specific city, in a specific part of the city, being able to present products that we understand are influenced by weather. And it's not just umbrellas, there's a lot of other behaviors. So, cold weather, warm weather. So it's interesting. So we're in an incredible time, and data is the key.
Absolutely. Data is the king for sure. So much data, big data out there. So talking about mobile payments, talking about payments in general, talking about e-commerce, mobile commerce, I think that space is very crowded. I mean, technology obviously has a lot to play, but every day I have a new startup reaching out to me with the app to buy and sell product, which is mobile commerce. And we see payment players, other players, ride-hailing services moving in the payment space. So for an investor, I would like to know what are some of the best practices you follow when you have to invest into a startup which is already very crowded and already very mature, so to say. It's not something new that we are seeing today. Sergey, would like to start from you, because we already have a startup here who owns ride-hailing services. For him, he would also like to know what is that factor that makes him different from others before he's going to raise money or reach out to investors.
What usually investors look for in e-commerce, like mobile payment startups, is, like I said, first of all, is your partners network. Because without strong partners relationship, you won't be able to quickly implement these mobile payments into existing systems. So whether it's going to be proprietary, is it like one bank or one telecom provider, or is it like more diverse? How exactly you're going to achieve that? The first is partner network in terms of connectivity to the platforms. The second is the partner network in terms of sales providers, like those who sell things, who will implement, what e-commerce sites will implement your technology. The third thing would be experience of the team, whether or not they have experience in mobile payment financing and everything. If these, for example, do they have experience in, mobile technologies? Because sometimes these are just ex-bank executives that are not very agile to, and they sometimes, you can see it through the pitch, they do not understand the market correctly, and they see it like just a partnership network and that's it. I mean, so, and the fourth, but not last, you need to have a more global reach, because if it's just one country centric, it depends on the country, exact country. But if it's like, let's say, if it's Europe, you cannot go with just one country. If it's Southeast Asia, you cannot go with Malaysia. You cannot go just with Indonesia. It's not enough. Yeah. So how exactly you're going to be, expand yourself? And last but not least, uniqueness, because if it's just a typical payments provider, how it's different from others? I mean, usually what we see, it's the same thing: biometrics, fast and secure. Well, I don't think customers right now are very much concerned about being fast. Every mobile payment is fast, basically. You're paying and it's fast. So they don't think how exactly fast it is, 0.1 or 0.2 seconds. And reliable, well, they think basically all payments are reliable. I haven't heard much complaints from different customers that use different systems that they say, oh, this system is not reliable. So the wording and understanding should be more of market specific. They need to understand how exactly this product going to attract customers, how it is unique. Especially in terms of navigation. So and moreover, what currently investors look for, they are not very much interested in pure mobile payment systems. They're more interested in ecosystems. If mobile payment is integrated into something, because basically, yes, there is so many mobile system payments, so who needs another one? And that's why it's more interested if it is connected to anything else. Before it was digital banks, right? So right now the trend a little bit down, but we see another trends, mixing e-commerce and mobile payments and providing other services. So that's it.
Would you also consider like PayPal is moving into crypto? They've already into crypto trading, cryptocurrencies, starting with Bitcoin and other currencies. If a startup has that feature added on to basic payment, would that be interest to you to look at?
That's an important thing to note. I mean, we need to understand why they implemented it, because if they just implemented it to say, oh, look, we have a crypto payment, that doesn't make them unique. For example, there is a startup in Austria called, let me remember, Salamantex. Yes, they provided the payment devices similar that we see in e-commerce shops where you pay with your card with crypto. These are, point of sales devices were put it on e-commerce stores, and that's how you pay with the crypto. So that's one of the strategies. But if you just have this ability to pay with crypto, well, already some digital banks provide that, but you need to understand that, is it really important for your customers? Because sometimes they implement it just to be there, but their customers not using crypto that much. So it's just 1-2 customers. So I need to see that how it is exactly implemented into the strategy, how exactly depends on this strategy.
Yeah, great points. And Tawanda is obviously, looks very happy with all the insights coming from the investors. Molu, over to you. So what if a startup comes to you with another Uber, the Stripe, PayPal concept, and looking for funding? So what are some of the points to consider before filtering them out and probably exploring to invest in them? Mo, over to you.
Yeah. So I think so. The most important thing, especially, is trying to figure out what is is there a need for such a service in that particular area? Because the reason why Uber was so prevalent was because in San Francisco it was impossible to get a taxi, and then in major cities around the world it was impossible to get a taxi, right? And then Uber also And then also in the United States, the like public transportation system is very, very poor, right? So Uber really solved that need, right? So I think number one, the most important thing to consider is there such a need, right? How is the public transport system there? Is the public transport system big enough actually for such a service? Because not only do you need to figure out if there's a need, but also is the market big enough? But like, does it have enough traction to be able to like put in an app? Because when you're creating such a company, you want to be in a big enough market where you can actually generate revenue and the business can actually go to run itself, right? And then also I think and the important thing is just not just to make a Uber copy, right? Because you cannot just copy and paste Uber into Zimbabwe, for example, because every country has its own unique characteristics and every country has its own unique skills, right? And then also people are used to like different things. People have different habits in those particular countries. So I think that's very much to consider. And also, what are the features that you can adopt that will make your product unique, right? And that will make your product sticky to the people in that particular country where you're trying to adopt it. So I think that's those are the most important factors to consider, especially when you're trying to make a transportation app. And also, I think one of the most important factors to consider is number one, regulations and existing players, right? Because we've seen that as Uber tried to expand, it faced a lot of regulatory upheavals, and it also faced a lot of pushback from existing players such as taxi scenes and then other cab hailing companies, right? So like you need to make sure that wherever you go, that there are proper rules and regulations in place. If there are no proper rules and regulations in place, you need to be able to engage with regulators and you need to be able to make your solution won't just be shut down tomorrow. And you also need to make sure that you're not stepping on any toes, right? Like you need to be able to work with existing players, and your solution should not just be the end all and the be all, but it should be an added solution to what's already available. So I think those are the most important factors.
Very good points. I totally agree. Uber was born because of a problem statement back in the days, and they have this first mover advantage, I guess. And again, hyper personalization, as Gary always say, very much targeted to a specific country or a region or a state is very important. Thank you so much. Harsh, we have Ola Labs as well, and we have so many payment players in India. India is like a diverse country as well. So many players already in e-commerce, mobile commerce. So how do they survive all these startups, and what is that unique selling point, and or how should they be sustain themselves in the long run? Because there are like big players, there are small players, and how do they sustain?
Yeah, so fintech has been crazy booming in India for the last 5-6 years, ever since the demonetization which happened, right? So fintech has been the really booming sector. However, an important thing to note is when I used to work with Paytm around 5 years back, the amount of competition we had in the market was a lot. And right now, there are only 2 or 3 names which are turning out majorly. So this is coming back to the point which Sergey mentioned, right? There are tons of apps in the market, right? Unless you have that unique USP, which differentiates you from the other players, it's going to be very difficult to survive. So the same thing came over here as well. The largest player right now is obviously Paytm, which is not just which originally started as a payments app, but now it's a super app which has all the apps in the country, and you can use it end to end across different channels. The other one which has survived is Bharatpay. So the what unique thing about Bharatpay was it added a unified QR code where you don't need to have another Bharatpay account, but you have a QR code of any company and you can facilitate the payments, right? So that's how you need to identify that unique thing which makes it different for you compared to the competitors. That's the only way you're going to survive. Else the competition is so ferocious, it's going to be very difficult to kind of keep up. At the same time, it needs to be very localized as well, because what happens is not only are the regulations of each and every country different, even the mindset is different. So for example, excuse me, in India, the QR code is a huge success, the way the QR code based payments worked out. However, at the same time, the QR codes completely flopped in the US. So if you take the same QR code in the US markets, it won't work. So that's why it has to be extremely localized in terms of the mindset of the understanding what the customer mindset is and design your product accordingly. Even the user experience, the way the customer accesses the app on the phone has to be very localized and very specialized, because there is a specific way an Indian would handle his app compared to the way an American or a European would handle his app. So
Yeah.
that is why we cannot have a single global solution. It has to be highly localized. And that is why it becomes crucial that the market should be big enough to kind of justify the existence of an app.
Yeah. I think QR code is a big hit in Singapore as well. We have QR codes everywhere, like India.
Yeah.
So I would like to know from Gary why QR codes, which is very convenient, are not very much liked by the Americans, maybe. Gary.
You know, Sonny, I just want to say a couple of things. So let's look at you know, from a technology perspective, because we have different, you know, hindsight they say is 2020. Not that 2020 was a good year, but if you look at it, just think about it. So in 1990, the first search engine was made called Archie, and you know, Veronica in 92, InfoSeek in 94, Yahoo in 94, Webcrawler in 94, Excite in 95, Backrub, which became Google in 96, and then finally Google in 1998. So what I'm saying is, you know, it was a crowded space with search engines then, and Google didn't come out to 8 years after the fact. So you got to understand, it doesn't, the first mover advantage. So people say that, but honestly, being from Silicon Valley and having been involved in a lot of companies, it may not think about it. Look, MySpace, where's MySpace today? They're gone, right? I mean, they're not, there's not much to them. So one of the challenges with being a first mover is that you spend a lot of money educating the audience. And the second mover, third mover, fourth can take advantage of all that money you had to spend to educate them. So it's not necessarily the case. So that's door number one. So the situation is, what I would do as a startup is look at ways that you can get the information back to the customer and respond to that hyper personalization quickly, like dynamic pricing. You need to be able to respond. You need to enhance the experience for the customer. Look at Jeff Bezos, right? I mean, they talked about him, and he was on, they had, it was kind of funny because they had doors in Amazon. They would take doors off, regular doors they would buy at Home Depot, and they would use those as desks. And he said, I'm going to dominate. And he was a bookseller. Now look where it is today. So we each have an opportunity, but you need to think differently, and you need to think about global. So I forget, I think Harsh was talking about the localization. Absolutely. You want to do things for the local environment. But the key is to, whatever you do, is to understand that customer better, what kind of buying patterns they have, and to make use of that data to come back with a customized solution for them. Ease, make it easy for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary.
So
Great.
just one point
Yeah.
I would like to add, the point which Gary mentioned, right, about the dynamic pricing. While it is an accepted practice in US, the Indian government in this 2020 e-commerce draft proposal has banned dynamic pricing. So that is how, you know, interesting it becomes to understand how the markets across the world are different, and how you know, truly pinpoint how each and every country operates, how the buyer operates, and you know, how to work according to that. That's very crucial.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
localization and the understanding whatever the local laws obviously are important. But at the same time, remember, the heart of the issue is, how can I understand how to get closer to that customer and to be able to increase the probability of success. So in India, if I can't use dynamic pricing, not sure why, because it's great. But because you want to have, you know, as you want the freedom to be able to present the pricing to get them the increase the probability of a purchase, right?
Perfect.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Gary and Harsh, for adding those great insights. Very helpful for any startup to know these insights as well. Localization, regionalization, and you know, very important, especially when it comes to an app. Now I'll pass the floor to Nathaniel, my co-moderator of the show today, to moderate the pitching. Thank you.
Hi guys. So I think Harsh and Gary made some really valid points about local adaptability to businesses. The fact that a project is a success in one region doesn't make it a success in another region. And I'd like to make a case for some projects in Nigeria, ride-hailing projects that started, and quickly in no time they integrated mobile payments. And these mobile payments you could use for transactions in restaurants or in stores and all that. And they were growing pretty fast. They went into different other sectors, and in the end, it was due to the COVID-19 situation and a government regulation that banned especially the motorcycles from operating in parts of the city, and the whole project just came down. And because the ride-hailing side of the business was affected, it affected the mobile payments, it affected other areas and other sectors. So it's very important, like Harsh said, to understand the local laws, the what's guiding the government laws and all that, and understand the mindset of the people. And you have to be deliberate in that regard. And I'm excited to see that, and I hope that African projects will be able to take advantage of the fact that they are no longer first-time movers or first entrants into business. For example, you've learned the mistakes from or the lessons from Uber, Grab, and all these ride-hailing apps, Tawanda, and then you'll be able to take those lessons learned, apply it to your own project, and scale up and take it to heights that people have not considered. And be global in mindset, but be local in application. That's my take. And I don't know if Mu, you have something to say about how African businesses should approach.
I think, Nathaniel, it's time for Tawanda to start his presentation. We're just a few more minutes left. Tawanda, over to you, please. Do you have a presentation?
If I could just quickly just add.
Sure. Yeah.
If I could just quickly just add to Nathaniel's point, I agree wholeheartedly with what he said. Is be global, it's global in like application, but like local in execution. I think it's very, very important to like look to the outside and see what's happening outside and take the like best practices. But like most importantly, the main point is how can you implement those best practices to local conditions and actually hyper localize your solution. And the point that Nathaniel made was about this tech company in Nigeria called Opay, and they try to do too many things at the same time. And that basically shows you that you can't just copy and paste anything. And I think the most important thing it shows you as well is you can't buy market share, just like in the US, for example, where they believe it's growth at all costs. So I think the two most important points, especially in regards to the African context, is number one, taking the best global practices and applying it locally, and number two, figuring out how you can use these best practices, right, and make the perfect app for local use. Thank you. Just wanted to quickly add that point.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, Tonda, you can start your presentation, and please, investors, judges, feel free to ask him questions on the way if you have any. Over to you, Tawanda.
Okay. I'm seeking permission to share my screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm just going to share the screen and show the presentation. All right, so our project is entitled Share, right? We want to solve the problem in terms of public transport. We are saying that the conventional conventional methods which are there, they are unreliable, they are unsafe, and most hailing is done by hand. So conventional methods, the transport that is used mostly is at most ×5 ride-hailing services, and for the public, the public board tried this problem, and then we came up with a solution to use the blue ocean strategy, where we want to use algorithmic technology. We're saying that we want to use technology in terms of apologies, my connection there.
Okay, are you going to share again?
Yes, apologies, my connection out, I had a connection outage. So I was explaining how ride-sharing work.
Okay, I think
I was mentioning that we are using the blue ocean strategy. We want to make ride-hailing safe, reliable, and affordable for most Zimbabweans. We are saying that we're targeting a market base of around 5 million. Sorry?
Tawanda, are you there? Hi, Tawanda.
You might want to get his PowerPoint presentation, run it from your standpoint, because his bandwidth is not wide enough for it, right? So if we wanted to do it, just get a copy of his presentation and you share the screen and put it up. Can you hear me? Nathaniel, can you hear me? You're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, get his presentation. Get his presentation. You control it, or Carol controls it, and he's got bandwidth.
Working on that.
Okay.
Thank you for the good suggestion.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about the car sharing situation. So I mean, my situation right now, before he gets back on, is how's he going to compete with Uber and Get Taxi, right, and Lyft?
So locally, we do not yet have Uber or Get Taxis. We have what is called Fire. We have Hyundai, we have Toda, and so those are the ones we're going to be competing with. So in terms of reducing in terms of the cost, so as I was mentioning earlier, it's 5 times more than the public transport. So we want to make it affordable for our customers by using regular people who travel to work. So in contrast, what the ride-hailing services have been doing is that they have been focusing on what we term regular taxi drivers. So these are the ones who charge the peaked ride fares. So we want to use regular people who go to work. We are looking at a workforce of around 5 million people. So we want to use those 5 million people and have them within the blue ocean strategy and try to reduce the price for them.
Okay, got it.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
can we ask questions now, or do we wait till after the presentation? Because I think we were sent the presentation before the call. So
yes, Tawanda, do you want to share the slide over? Should I switch between pages, or you're through with your pitch?
It's okay. We can have questions now.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So right off the bat, you mentioned that the current ride-hailing apps in Zimbabwe are 5 times more expensive than public transport, right? So are they, number one, are they aggregated models like Uber, where you have freelance taxi drivers, and then you can hail a like taxi, or are they people that have literally just created their own taxi service? And number one, how do you kind of, number one, like, what are the current issues apart from price? What are the current issues with those services? How do you expect to compete, and how do you expect to compete against those services?
So
And
the
sorry,
current
sorry,
models.
one more question. And yes, sorry, one more question. And what would make your application different from existing? Thank you.
Sorry.
So what would make your, so the third question is, what would make your application different from existing ones in Zimbabwe?
Okay. So what other ride-hailing services, what they've been doing is that they've been using the taxi operators, and so they are more or less freelancers in that they also have their own side businesses in terms of taxi services. And what we have noticed that they have been doing wrong is in terms of that when they provide, in terms of the solutions to the drivers, that they have been giving the service to the drivers, and the drivers have been feeling left out in terms of if one takes a distance and then the return distance. So in terms of them reacting to this, they have sort of been taking the customers away from the parent ride-hailing services. So we want to solve that problem by focusing on regular people who go to work, and then they want to make extra money when they're doing their returns distances back home. And so we are covering on that point. And then another point was most ride-hailing services, they do not have what we call as monthly subscribe bundles, such that making it cheaper for use in terms of data services. So regular Zimbabweans have been finding data services a bit steep. So we want to create a service whereby they can use the monthly subscribe hail the service. And then we also want to have a sub connection with use of WhatsApp, that they can also use WhatsApp to hail a service as well if they are unable to focus on the data. And there was another question that you had in terms of what would be the uniqueness. So the uniqueness is a combination of affordability, uniqueness in terms of safety, because what a large population of the country has been doing is that they have been commuting using illegal commuters, and there have been incidences of safety risks, safety incidences. So we want to do a campaign in terms of converting those customers towards our ride-hailing service and having the safety feature in place.
Tawanda, when you say that the uniqueness is in affordability, that just means that the price is going to be low. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you just keep the prices low, and that's your basically the only unique selling point. Another one is safety, but you kind of need to prove that. But if you just provide the low pricing points, it's just I'm afraid it's not a strategy, simply because with the lowest prices, you won't be profitable for too long. I mean, and that's another problem for all car sharing companies, because as they usually cannot sustain this business. As far as I know, most car sharing companies, they also, part of a huge internet conglomerate, or, other businesses. If you have, Uber, then you have, other businesses in Uber. So in this case, how do you expect, if you say that the unique selling point is affordability, which means low prices, when exactly do you expect, at least break-even point? Or if not break-even point, how are you going to provide exit for the investors?
Okay, so we are focusing on making the ride-hailing service affordable. And part of the strategy is to use instead of focusing on just using one customer having the ride, we're saying we want to have scheduled and unscheduled trips where we have people sharing a ride. So we are basically just modernizing an existing model that has been used, which has not been put on a technological plate in terms of the way people are hailing their rides. So the traditional method is people are hailing their rides, but there is no enforcement of technology. So the share ride concept is such that more people are in the ride. That's how we're going to then reduce the cost. So we are hoping that the break-even point will be reached probably in a year's time. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Tawanda? How do you understand
Yes.
how your market in Zimbabwe is? Do you intend to take this model outside Zimbabwe? And like Sergey asked, you at what point you said you intend to start breaking even or seeing profit in a year's time? Am I
Yes,
right?
yes. Yes.
Okay, in a year's time. So do you intend to remain in Zimbabwe all this period? And what is the population like? Economic activity? Is there really bustling activity in Zimbabwe that will inform regular use of these taxi services?
Okay, in terms of traction has been on the upward trend since last year, June. In terms of population size, we are currently at 14 million. And in terms of expansion to outside countries, we are hoping to expand to outside countries. And with our increase in revenue, we are hoping to then adopt other technological models, such as use of electric cars, and if based on the particular country where we want to expand in, and trying to understand the people there, we also then want to use other forms such as scooters, motorcycles, based on how people react to those models as well.
Okay, the question is how big is the population? You mentioned the population in Zimbabwe is 14 million. How many of them use mobile devices, advanced mobile devices that will support this kind of app, and how ready are they to use it?
Okay, statistics from the service providers, you are looking at around 4 million people who are using, who are subscribed to their platforms. So this one is an upward trend now, particularly because of the COVID period as well. So it's also on an upward trend.
Okay,
Harsh, I had a couple of questions. I wanted to understand, does BlaBlaCar operate in Nigeria? BlaBlaCar is one of the leading ride sharing platforms in the world, ride sharing, carpooling, whatever you call it. That's one of the questions which I had. Additionally, I wanted to understand what is the unique defensibility, as in there is nothing. I'm trying to understand what is so unique and different about this that stops any other company to start this in Zimbabwe itself. That's the second one. And thirdly, how do you plan to employ the cab drivers, right? So across the world, this has become a raging issue that if you hire them as contractors, then there are lots of other complications that are having, right? So what's the how you plan to employ those drivers as? And the fourth one, which I want to ask was, what is your business model like? What's the revenue model like, right? Are you going to be charging like 20% over and above, or do you have something else in mind? What's your business model approach?
Sorry, I didn't catch the first one. You said black card.
BlaBlaCar. So BlaBlaCar is a French ride-sharing company. It's one of the leading companies in the world which is already operated in this space. So you mentioned that Uber is not there in Zimbabwe, right? So is
Yes,
BlaBlaCar or any other ride-sharing company operating over there?
No, not yet. We have there's Uber in the neighboring country, which is South Africa.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yes.
for you, BlaBlaCar is going to be a good model to emulate. Probably you can have a look at that and understand more how it operates. So
Okay. Yeah.
how about the remaining questions? Can you help me with that?
The other question was
Yeah.
on, sorry.
Can you repeat the question, Harsh? Because I think it
Sure.
was a little bit fast. So
Sure.
probably he
No
couldn't
worries.
catch.
No worries, no worries. So my second question was, what was your unique defensibility? What is stopping someone else to start this, right? Normally there has to be something unique which you possess, which other people don't, which kind of helps you to be the main person who can drive this the best, right? So what is that unique quality about your startup, which probably other people will find it difficult? So that's the first one.
I think yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so that was
I think the
first.
unique thing.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah,
Yes, I
Tawana,
think the
go ahead.
unique. Okay, I think we have also been pondering on this question as well. It should be Paul Bouquet from Y Combinator. He was saying that you have to launch fast and try to identify how best you can serve the customer. And for us, we're saying it's not difficult to start a ride-hailing service in terms of creating an app. Anyone can create an app. So uniqueness has to come from the benefits that come from this business model as such. So we are trying to bring the most to the customer in terms of the share ride concept. And we are enthusiastic, we're excited, and we want to launch fast. And we want to expand and then adopt further models, including the electric scooters. And I've also catched up something on mobile payments as well. So we're also hoping to look into things like that. And you had another question?
Yeah, we have to move a little faster. Mo also has some questions.
Okay.
So what's the next question, Harsh?
I have just So just a quick question, like what is the market size of the potential ride-hailing population in Zimbabwe, and where are you with funding thus far, and what is the funding landscape like in Zimbabwe? I'm not too familiar with it. Are there any VCs, or are there any accelerators, etc.?
So for accelerated programs, they exist. There are a number of startup incubators which are there, and there are some venture capitalists which exist as well. In terms of programs, they've been a bit delayed because we have just started being experienced in the second wave of COVID as well. But they exist, and we, yeah. Hello?
All right, sure. Harsh, what was the last question, please? Okay.
Yeah, the last question I wanted to ask was, are the drivers going to be contractors, or are they going to be like company employees? Because that's one of the leading issues across the world for these kind of platforms. That was one. And what's your revenue model like? These two are the last ones.
Yes, we are going to be using partners. We're not going to be hiring employees. We've seen the troubles that Uber has had regarding employees, and so we're going to be adopting them as partners, because they are also going to be companies where they work. So they're going to come on board as partners.
Okay, and your revenue model, please.
Yes, it's going to be, we're going to have two models. The first one is the transaction model, where you pay when you hail the ride. And then we're going to have a subscription model where you enjoy benefits of being subscribed monthly. So those are going to be our revenue models.
What kind of percentages if it is on a per ride basis?
For the subscription, we're going to have up to, it will depend on special features that we put on, but up to 20% discounts for the subscription. So they're subscription based.
Okay, and on a per ride basis, if you're charging, how much markup would you charge over there? So how much markup would you charge on a per ride basis?
Sorry?
So if the rider is charging, say, $5 for a ride, right? How much of that would
Yes.
come to you?
We're looking at taking 20% commission.
Okay.
Wow, 20% commission. So what do you think, Harsh? Is it a good number? Is it a big number?
20% is reasonably fair. The range ranges from 20% to 25%. That's the general range, so that's not a problem. The only thing is that they have to identify a solid moat in this area, right? Because the concept is very easy for anyone to come with some money, right? They need to figure out that unique thing very quickly. That's going to be the real challenging part.
Okay, sorry, Mo is going to be logging off soon. Mo, any closing remarks for Tawanda and the show and VCTV, please, before you go? And I have got another question coming from Sergey.
Yeah. So thank you once again for having me on this amazing panel. It's always a fantastic time on VCTV. Tawanda, just as Harsh rightly pointed out, ride-hailing is not a new concept. And as you rightly said, anybody can create an app. It's not too hard to create an app. So I think the most important thing is to find a good moat, and find unique features that differentiate you from the current applications that are currently in the market. I don't think you can really rely on price, because pricing is just a matter of just removing a couple of dollars off the price. So that's not really a strategy. Like, try to find something that will really differentiate yourself. Perhaps maybe if it's in your features, perhaps if it's in the number of routes, perhaps if it's in the speed of getting people from point A to point B, right? But good luck. Good luck in your journey. And once again, thank you so much for having me on this amazing panel. Bye bye.
Thank you, Mo. Before you go,
Thank you.
We can connect you with Tawanda on another session, another episode of VCTV, because we had some hiccups in terms of technical issues today. But we're happy to connect Tawanda and yourself another time. Thank you so much for your time and insights, and look forward to have you again on another episode of VCTV. Take care. Thank you. Sergey, over to you, please, with the question.
Yes, I'll try to do, it's not a question, it's like a closing remark. Okay, so I'm going to give this feedback. If, unfortunately, if you were presented this kind of opportunity, we'll turn it down simply because first of all, it's just one country centric, so we cannot see how you can expand to other countries. It's a very traditional model. There is nothing new, nothing unique about it. You'll have to spend several years educating the market, simply because there are not enough ride-sharing apps. And there's a reason why there are not many of them, simply because the market is not developed enough. They were interested in other African countries, right? So you will develop the market, you will educate the people, then the big player will come and buy your company probably for peanuts, or not giving your investors enough return. And investors want to see how your company can grow to, $100 million valuation, $500 million valuation, but that's not possible in this market. And you cannot give them back the money in terms of cash, because you're going to be break even just in many years to come. So I really advise you to either think of another idea, to either provide some kind of a platform for ride sharing, or you're just a software provider, not a car, just selling the software. And another thing is 20% for such markets is too much, because riders are not ready to give away this many amount of money. There's a significant amount of money for them. So that sounds reasonable, but only for really developed markets. That's my
Very right, Sergey. Very right, Sergey, because Grab acquired Uber's Southeast Asia business. So we don't see Uber anymore, as you know, in Singapore and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Very rightly said on that note. And second, pricing is very critical in these kind of businesses.
Yeah.
Very critical. And that's why I asked Harsh if 20% was too much. Sorry, just in my opinion, I think it's
And a closing remark for the VCTV. Thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to be here again. Great week was VCTV yesterday. So I hope we'll have more panels like this, not just us investors discussing, the trends and also discussing the startups, providing the feedback. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Sergey, and definitely going to have you back on another episode of VCTV. Till then, take care.
Thank you.
Harsh, your closing remarks for the show before Tawanda.
Sure. So nice insight from Gary. So I was thinking 20% from the perspective of developed markets, but that may not apply to developing markets. So as I said, localization. It again comes down to identifying the localized policies, right? So one feedback for Tawanda, as he pointed out, unless he can expand to the rest of the African geographies, it will be very difficult for him to scale. However, it can really, if he can become the largest African player, it can become something very interesting proposition. Just like we have Ola in India, we have Oyo in India. Despite having the big players like Uber and Airbnb and Amazon, we've had domestic players. So the only way this company could survive is if they capture the entire Africa, because just Zimbabwe or Nigeria is not going to cut it, right? So he always has to, kind of encapsulate that. And probably if he becomes really big enough, one of these companies, they can actually buy them out. Even that would be a great exit for them. So
Harsh, totally agree. Sorry to interrupt. You have to say something more.
No worries. No worries.
No, what I'll say that with this, what exactly these investors have said is the very right thing, because we have seen the live cases of Uber and Grab acquiring Uber's shares in Southeast Asia, and Ola. I mean, when Ola and Uber were in India, but now I think Ola is the dominant player. So I think Tawanda, a lot of lessons from, a lot of learnings from today's sessions from all the investors that are here. I would like to ask your closing remarks, Tawanda, for the show and your feedback about VCTV, because this was obviously the first session that you were pitching, and because of technical issues, things got a little bit delayed as well. So your feedback and are you looking to come on another episode to present your ideas about this?
Thank you very much for the platform. I've been really enjoying the journey that we've had since we started, and a number of insights that I've got from all the investors, and I'm very grateful for the suggestions that remarks that they've been giving to me, especially from you, Harsh. Thank you, and as well from Sergey. Thank you so much. And we're hoping that we can get to sit down with my team and go through them and see how best we can move forward from now. And thank you so much. I would really like to appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
And Nathan, any last word?
I'm really happy, Tawanda, that you took every bit of what everyone had to say. I know that your business, no matter how little, has prospects. You only need to work on the final details, dot the I's, cross the T's, and understand the market. I believe that you can adjust those few things and look for unique selling points. Things like you said in the Godfather movie, an offer you cannot refuse, an offer that people cannot refuse, and then come back and pitch again to the investors and let them see that you have evolved and you have taken in some of the feedback and you have updated your business plan, your processes, and your revenue model, especially your revenue model. And I really look forward to seeing you before long and more African projects. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan. Really good wise words from Nathan. You have to work on your revenue model at Tawanda. Even I'd agree with that. Thank you so much for viewers for watching today's episode of VCTV. We come to the end of the show. I'm going to be back tomorrow with another set of speakers, another topic. Till then, keep watching VCTV. Take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.